Welcome to my 2023 Nebraska season preview. Today I'm going to take a look at Nebraska's schedule and kind of go through and give my predictions of how I think the Huskers are going to perform in this 2023 college football season. And I think that before I get into the individual games, the thing that kind of jumped out at me was I think this schedule is a lot more manageable. Nebraska, for the longest time, when they joined the Big Ten, was viewed as like this top tier program, and they wanted to the conference wanted to get those matchups. So we saw Nebraska facing off against either Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, two out of those three schools almost every year. I think Nebraska, it seems like they've played Ohio State every single season that they've been in the Big Ten, and because Nebraska hasn't lived up to that. The conference, I think, kind of went away with that. And now this has got to be the easiest draw for Nebraska from the East Division, getting Michigan, Indiana, and Rutgers. That's not traditionally what they've done. And so I think that's a big thing to kind of look at with this schedule. And when I went through and I was trying to prep and figure out how I was going to do this, I thought about just breaking the games up into like, hey, here's the easy games, here's the tough games, here's the games that I don't think they're going to win. I've decided I'm just going to go through the schedule. And the thing that jumped out right away, there's not a game on this schedule that I don't think is a guaranteed loss. Last year I went into the season saying they're not beating Ohio State. I didn't think they were going to beat, I don't know if it was Wisconsin or somebody else. There's, looking at this schedule, I don't think Nebraska's going undefeated. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going 12-0. But, going through this schedule, going through, marking wins, marking losses, marking a swing game, there wasn't a game that I said they have no shot at winning this game. And I think that's a good thing. I think it shows not only that Nebraska's got talent to win every single game on their schedule, but just shows once again that they also don't have this super tough schedule that's going to guarantee it, several losses. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Like I said, I'm just going to go game by game by game and kind of give you my thoughts. If it's a guaranteed win, if it's not, whatever it may be. Let's start off first, the Ireland game against Northwestern. Obviously it's the first game of the season, but I think this game is crucial for Nebraska. I think it is going to set a tone for their season. Last year Nebraska played week 0 against Illinois. They lost that game, and it was a big deal for them. And I think the way that this team is, the way this program is right now, this is crucial for Nebraska to win this game. Northwestern was the only conference win they had last year. They blew them out. It was one of the few. It was the only conference game they won, and they won it in such convincing fashion. So I don't think Northwestern. They've had these swings where they go back and forth. When you think they're going to be good, they struggle. When you think they're going to be bad, they end up winning the division, whatever it may be. I don't think that's this year. They lost a lot from last year. They didn't really have much. Their best defensive player transferred to Notre Dame. They got questions at quarterback with Ryan Holinsky. He didn't really look great last year. This game is set up for Nebraska to win. Nebraska's going to have, anytime Northwestern plays anyone, the other team's going to have a bigger fan base and a bigger thing. But going to Ireland, Nebraska's going to get a majority of the fans there. I just think this is set up for Nebraska to win. It could be wrong. It could be a swing game. But I think the fact that they're going to come out ready to go. I don't think Northwestern's very good. I think Northwestern's probably going to finish at the bottom of the West Division. I think Nebraska gets out of there with a win. We have the three non-conference games, but I'm going to lump Notre Dame and Georgia Southern in together just because they're different than Oklahoma. And, Nebraska struggled under Scott Frost. We all know that. However, other than that Troy game in Frost's first season where Martinez was hurt and they had to play the fourth-string quarterback, they've not lost these non-conference games to these lesser conference. Obviously, they lost to Oklahoma last year. They've lost to Colorado 2 straight years. But if it's a group of 5 team in the preseason, in the non-conference season, Nebraska's done well under Scott Frost. So I don't envision even, North Dakota is coming off of, so Nebraska plays in Ireland and then plays that next weekend against North Dakota. I don't think there's going to be too much of a layover. Nebraska's probably going to play sluggish in that game, don't get me wrong, but I don't think North Dakota's good enough to really give them a fight there. So I think Nebraska, at this point, North Dakota and Georgia Southern are guaranteed wins. I think I'd be shocked if they didn't win those games. I predicted them to beat Northwestern, so I think they're coming into that Oklahoma game 3-0 with a week off preparing for Oklahoma. And I think, I said Northwestern is the key to this season, and I still agree with that. But this Oklahoma game is probably, I think, a good pivot point here, because Nebraska's had a shot to be 3-0, win this game, be 4-0, and get that big signature win. And I don't think this is the Oklahoma's team that we saw last year that Nebraska just was kept hanging with. I never really felt like Nebraska was in a position to win that game last year, but they just kind of hung around, kept within reach. And I think Oklahoma's vulnerable. They lost a lot from that team last year. You lost several significant starters. You lost your head coach. You lost defensive coordinator. And Caleb Williams is gone. And a lot of the players are gone. They hit the transfer portal hard. Now, I like the coaching staff that they brought. They got Brett Venables, who is one of the best defensive minds in college football. They got Jeff Lebby, who comes from, the Art Briles tree. He worked with Lane Kiffin. And they've got a lot, they're getting Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback from Central Florida, who played for Lebby when Gabriel first went to Central Florida. And so there's a lot of things going, and I could see this going both ways. I could see Oklahoma winning just because they've got a lot of premier talent, but Nebraska has a lot going for it too. I think Nebraska has a little bit more stability. I know they're changing offensive staff, but they're going to keep a lot of, run things the same. And this game's in Lincoln. I think if this game was in Norman, I'd be more willing to maybe give the slight advantage to Oklahoma. But I think if Nebraska's 3-0 going into this game, being at home, I just think there's a lot of uncertainty around Oklahoma, and I feel a little bit more confident in Nebraska that I think they can win this game. And so I think there's a very good chance and a very good opportunity that Nebraska can get out of these first 4 games, the Northwestern game and the 3 non-conference games, 4-0. And I think that would get a lot of people's attention. Obviously, you're 4-0. You have more wins than you did last year and not a single loss yet. And I think that could really give this team the much-needed momentum. Under Scott Frost, we've only seen one season where this team had that momentum. And that was in his first year at the end of the season when they rallied strong. They haven't had that confidence. And I think if they're able to start 4-0 here, that gives them a ton of confidence to go into a crucial 4 or 5 game stretch of games that they really need. These next stretch against Indiana, Rutgers, Purdue, and Illinois, those next 4 games, the next third of their schedule, could really set them up for success. And I think getting that win against Oklahoma would really benefit them there. Okay? So let's talk about that 4-game stretch. Here they get the 2 of their teams from the East, Indiana and Rutgers. And Indiana last year went 2-10. And Indiana was a team that I thought was going to be on the rise. They had during the COVID season, they played really well. I thought they were like the second or third best team in the conference. I thought last year they'd have a big year. They fell apart. And so I don't know if Tom Allen just had a year and a half, a 2-year run, and things have kind of gone back to Indiana football or whatever it may be. But, this is a team that, once again, I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska lost this game. Because it's typically a game that they've lost. They've lost to Indiana the last time they played them. But Indiana has gone through a big transition. They lost a lot of their key players on defense. They hit the transfer portal hard. They got a new quarterback from Missouri in. They've got a running back from Auburn. Like I said, I thought Tom Allen was a really good coach, so maybe he's able to right the ship. But I think at this point, I think Indiana's taken a big step back from where they were the last couple of years. And I think this is another winnable game for Nebraska. If I was to rank the winnable games, this might be the third or fourth most winnable game on their schedule. So at this point, I think there's a good shot Nebraska could be 5-0 heading into the Rutgers game. You think 5-0, they're probably a ranked team at this point too. But it all comes down to winning those games. It's easy for me to say, oh, it's a win, it's a win, it's a win. They've got to go out and win these games too. That leads us into Rutgers. Now, this ain't your daddy's Rutgers team that you can just chalk up automatically as a win. Rutgers did go 5-8 last year. Greg Schiano is building that team, but I think it's a long rebuild. And Nebraska's beat them the last couple times that they've played them, including a year with Greg Schiano as their head coach during that pandemic year. And I think Nebraska can do that again this year. Yes, it is away, but Piscataway is not necessarily a tough place to go. I just think Nebraska, especially if they're having the season that I think they're going to have, they're 5-0 at this point, 4-1. I think they have enough confidence to go into Rutgers and get that win. All right, after Rutgers, we have Purdue and Illinois. Purdue, I think, is a tough game on the schedule. Purdue's quietly last year went 9-4, and they've got a good quarterback coming back, and Aiden O'Connell, who is popping up on NFL draft radars. But they are lacking their number one receiver. They lost David Bell last year. They've got talent, and this is a team that Nebraska struggled with lately. So I definitely think this is a trap game. Even if Nebraska's 6-0 at this point, I definitely think this is a trap game. It's on the road, not to mention it. So I could definitely see a loss here. But I don't think Purdue's necessarily a team that would strikes me as, oh, they're a guaranteed loss, or this is a team that Nebraska could beat. I wouldn't be shocked if Nebraska beat them by a couple touchdowns or more. But they've got a lot of talent. They're a sneaky pick. A lot of people are thinking they could potentially challenge for the West Division title. And I think this is a game that Nebraska typically loses. So at this point, I think this could be a loss here. Traditionally under Scott Frost, this is a game that they don't win. And then rounding out that next group of four is Illinois, 5-7. They beat Nebraska to start the last season. The thing about Illinois is they benefited last year, in my opinion, because they had so many of those guys with the extra year. Because of the pandemic, players got that extra year, and Illinois had by far the most of anybody in the conference. And we saw a lot of that. And I think Brett Bielema is building a good squad, a good program in Illinois. I don't know if he'll ever get to the Wisconsin level, but I think it's going to take some time. And I think they peaked last year in year one. I think they're going to take a little bit step back this year. The game's in Lincoln. I think Nebraska's a better team than they were last year. I don't think Illinois is as good of a team. And so I think Nebraska pulls away with a win here. I think this is one of the more winnable games. I think Northwestern and Indiana are probably the two easiest conference wins. Illinois is probably number 3. And then that sets Nebraska up for the Final Four, the back third of their schedule. And this is where it gets tough. You got Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa, I think, are potentially the 3 best teams in the West Division. Then you get Michigan, who just went to the college football playoff last year and is going to contend for being probably the second or third best team in the East. And I think Nebraska has a good shot. I would not be shocked. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Nebraska has a good shot to be undefeated coming into this 4-game stretch, 8-0. So far I'm projecting them to be 7-1. I could see them being 2-6 here. I mean, there's a lot of variables and somewhere in between. But for my predictions at this point, they're 7-1 heading into this last 4-game stretch. They get Minnesota at home to start it off, and Minnesota is once again the trendy pick to win. PJ Fleck brought back Kirk Soraka as his offensive coordinator. They've got Tanner Morgan back as their quarterback. Chris Ottman-Bell's back at receiver. Mo Ibrahim is back at running back. But There is a lot of things that are going for Nebraska in this game. Minnesota, I don't think they're as strong on defense as they had been in the past years. Last year they lost Boye Mafe, who in the NFL draft. And then we got to think about that offense. Yes, Tanner Morgan is back, and he is a solid quarterback for college, but he's not like he's Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson when he was at Wisconsin or, C.J. Stroud or Justin Fields, whatever that is. He's a solid quarterback who's just going to distribute the ball. They lost a lot of the, three main players along their offensive line. Their running back, Mo Ibrahim, is coming off of an ACL or Achilles injury. So is he going to truly be back to form? The game's in Lincoln, which they've beat us in Lincoln too. So there's a lot of things that I could see go either way. This is definitely one of a swing game. I could see Nebraska win. I could see them losing. Nebraska hasn't beat them in a while, but they have, been close. I mean, they were close to everyone last year. So I definitely think this is a winnable game. I'm going to chalk it up to a loss here. This is just a game I think Nebraska's typically struggled with in the past, and I just don't know if they can beat them this year. I think Minnesota's got too much momentum. Then it goes into Michigan. This is an away game at the Big House. Michigan, like I said, coming off the college football playoff appearance. They won the Big Ten last year. I don't know what to think of Michigan. Offensively, they seem pretty well intact. They got a good offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award last year. Their quarterback's back, plus they got McCartney, the guy that rotates in. I think he's a guy that's going to get more playing time, give them a little bit more dynamicness to their offense. They get Ronnie Bell back, who got injured last year. But I just have a lot of questions about their defense. They lose Aiden Hutchinson. They lose David Ojabo. They lose Daxton Hill. They lost their linebackers. Their defensive coordinator went to the Ravens, and so now they got a different Ravens position coach to be their defensive coordinator. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, on that defense. Was last year just a one-year turnaround, and then they're back to the way that Michigan's been under Harbaugh, where they're just kind of a 9-3 type team. Regardless, I think this is a tough game for Nebraska to win. Going on the road, going against one of the better teams in the East, I think they'll keep it competitive. I just don't see this being a team that they can beat. All right, and then we come back for the last two games, home games against, arguably the two best teams in the West, Wisconsin and then Iowa. Nebraska traditionally has played both of these teams tough. It seems like Nebraska's almost beat Iowa the last however many times they've lost them. We lost, 6, 7 straight. And they always seem to, it's been a couple kicks. It's been a game that they let go last year. Wisconsin, another team that seems like Nebraska's been in a chance to beat several times. It just can't get over the hump. Wisconsin, once again, the media predicted them to be the runaway favorites of the division. I'm just not totally sold on them. They only returned 8 total starters on their whole team. Graham Mertz was supposed to be the best quarterback they've ever had, and he's, other than the game against Illinois, not really looked that great. They don't really have dynamic receivers, but they never do. Their running back situation is kind of in flux. I know the freshman last year ran all over Nebraska. I mean, I think they're going to be your typical Wisconsin team we've seen the last couple of years. Good, but not great. I think it being at home really helps Nebraska. It gives them that chance to eke out the victory. But I'm not quite sure. Iowa, I think Nebraska's more apt to beat Iowa than they are Wisconsin. Iowa lost a lot of key players. Their running back, one of the best offensive linemen in the Big Ten last year. They do get their quarterback back, but he's not really a game breaker. They get the Keegan Johnson, the receiver from Iowa, who looked very promising as a freshman. And then their tight end, Sam Laporta, who kind of hurt Nebraska last year. But Nebraska, I thought, should have beat them last year. We could say that about a lot of teams. But I thought they really had a chance to win, kind of went away with what they're doing. I think with a new offensive coordinator for Nebraska, a quarterback that isn't prone to make mistakes and can do a little bit more than what some others could do last year. I think Nebraska's in a great shot. I think they leave. I know these last 4 games are tough, but I do think they beat one of them. I think it's Iowa at the end of the season. And so when it's all said and done, I think Nebraska's an 8-4 team this year. I think you got your losses are Purdue, Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And that's, wins over Iowa, Illinois, Rutgers, Indiana, Oklahoma, Georgia Southern, North Dakota, and Northwestern. Like I said, I could see 8-4 as my official prediction. I could see 9-3. I could see 7-5. And let's be honest, I could see another 3-win season. I think, as I said at the beginning, every single game on the schedule is winnable. I think all but 2 games are losable. And that's not what a lot of people want to hear, and I get that. And I'm a blind optimistic person. When it comes to Nebraska football, I always go into every game thinking they're going to win, because it's no fun when you do it the other way. So I'm very well could be wrong. I thought Nebraska last year was going to go 8-4, 7-5, and they only won 3 games. But I think what we see with this schedule, I think it's the most manageable schedule we've seen out of Nebraska in the last, maybe since they've been in the Big Ten. And so I think the team is there. I think they made the changes needed. But will 8-4 get Frost another year? I don't know. Only Trev Alberts knows that. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed my Nebraska season preview. I put out a few other videos as a part of the series, so make sure you check out those videos. Those will be appearing in the corners of your screen. Thanks for watching. Hope you like it, and until next time.